Hey, what's up, y'all? This is William, the permaculture consultant, and today we're going to be harvesting potatoes, onions, garlic, and shallots, I believe. Yeah, it's that time to start harvesting. Last night I did go ahead and get started in harvesting part of this bed, but it continues on all the way down to the blue tarp where that compost pile is. I did go ahead and start last night, and I'm gonna go ahead and spill the beans a little bit on these potatoes. It's not a very good harvest. In fact, this right here has been my entire harvest over this section of the bed, which might be close to half. It's not very much at all. What I did on this bed was I went ahead and cut everything down. There was a bunch of vegetation on top of this bed at first. I cut everything down and put it over there towards my compost making area. And then the next thing I did was start breaking up the soil. At first I started using the potato fork, and then I realized, like, oh, there's no potatoes in these beds. I guess I don't necessarily have to be careful. And then I switched on over to the broad fork, which is going to, and then after that I'm going to actually follow it back up with the potato fork. But the broad fork is actually going to help fix some of the big issue with this bed. It holds on to way too much moisture at the bottom of the bed. It either needs to be raised up a little bit or the drainage needs to be increased below the bed. Now I know this is super heavy clays and it's just going to take time to work that clay and turn it into a nice crumb structure down below. That's just going to take time. One thing that's going to help is actually the broad fork, and I'm going to continue broad forking this bed and then following up behind it with the potato fork. Another thing I could do is actually raise the height of this bed. I could either bring in more soil and raise it that way, or I could put down some cardboard, put down some sort of carbon mulch, something like that, and then build soil up that way. The goal should always be building soil, but I can also build soil going down with the use of microbes and decompaction of the compaction layer, or I could build soil up using methods like the instant garden or sheet mulching or something like that, or proper grazing. That's another way to build soil up. This is just the potato bed. I still have the onion, onion, shallots, and garlic in the other bed, and then I think it was actually capped with sweet potatoes. Not sweet potatoes, sunflowers. I already got those in a previous video though. So that's what we're going to continue on doing. I might have enough potatoes for one solid meal for me, Emily, and the baby. I should also say this isn't discouraging to me. This is the first season of planting potatoes in this bed. I now know what the issue is. It's way too soggy at the bottom of the bed. And I'll just fix that issue and then grow better potatoes next time, which actually I might start after this heat wave comes through. I might just go ahead and start planting potatoes in the fall, and then maybe like early fall, late summer, harvest them in beginning of the winter, late fall, because they are pretty mild around here until we get a nice storm. Alrighty, so I went through and finished preparing this bed. This is the total number of potatoes I got. You know, the potatoes are what they are. Now we're going to do the onion and shallot and garlic bed that had the sunflowers down at the end. And remember, we're keeping track of all of this stuff through an app called Gardenate. I put in the app when everything should be ready to harvest, and then the app actually sent me a notification through my calendar letting me know, hey, potatoes should be ready by now, which, you know, they are what they are, and that the onions and all the garlic and shallots and all that stuff should be ready as well. It's a super handy app. If you're new to gardening, then I highly recommend using it. It takes all the guesswork out. You will, like for example, if we're in zone 8A, like we are here, I've noticed that you want to plant things maybe a week or 2 weeks earlier than what the app is saying, just for this local area in this part of DeKalb right here. It might vary a little bit where you are. They're only able to get so accurate, but the more you use it, the more accurate the app will get. But anyways, we're gonna start harvesting, I think it's shallots first, and then it was shallots first. I had a stick here marking where the shallots ended. But anyway, we'll be able to tell when we start harvesting, but it's shallots first over here, and then red onions, and then I think white onions over there, And then at the end over there were the sunflowers. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully these guys fared better. They might be in the same circumstance where it was too wet at the bottom and it didn't do well. Also, this bed did get, the potatoes and this bed did get away from me at one point, and the clover, the ground cover that I'm using, was outcompeting the potatoes and the onions and all that stuff for sun. That's the only competition that's really occurring in this garden. It's not a competition for water, definitely not water, not a competition for nutrients, but it's a competition for sun. So keep an eye on that. That is one mistake that was 100% my fault, not necessarily the technique's fault. I just didn't come out here and clear. It's not that I should have cleared more often, it's that I should have cleared sooner. Alrighty, so this bucket here is going to be for the harvest, and this other bucket right here is going to be for all the excess greens that I harvest from here. And I'm using one hand with the glove, one hand on the rice knife, so that way if I did grab anything like thorny or spiky or encounter any other critters or anything like that, I have just a little bit of protection. Now all the green that I'm cutting out here will actually go into the compost, which in turn will feed this garden again. So a little closed loop system we got going on here on the fertility. Oh, cool. Okay, so these are shallots. There we go. Alrighty, we're almost got more shallots already than our potatoes. So put those in the bucket. Got some more right here. There we go. Oh, and for those of you that remember, this right here is part of our rootstock that we planted earlier this year. And that will later become a full grafted, I believe, apple tree. It's the M111 rootstock. Here's our stick, actually, that demarcation line on the shallots. So we didn't get very many shallots, which is fine. Still, there was that competition at the beginning, like I said, over the sun. Let's see how the onions did. I think these probably did a little bit worse than the shallots, actually. Yeah, especially if that's what they're looking like. They might need to go, well, no, they're going to seed. I planted these too late. All right, well, you know, you learn. I guess these will go to compost. Actually, I might bring these to the little piggies. Dang. All right, so this first harvest of the garden ain't doing too hot, but that's okay because this soil is only getting better. One thing that did for sure occur in these beds, I might not have grown vegetables very well, but I know the soil life has definitely just taken off in these beds. You could see actually in that bed that I just tilled up a little bit, that I just broad forked with the, I don't want to accidentally say tilled and people get the wrong idea, but that I just broad forked earlier. You could tell the transition between soil, like bioactive soil, and that dense like Play-Doh clay underneath. We should have some pretty good success with these successional plantings. And the soil, if I keep doing correct methods, the soil is only going to get better. That bed over there, the potato bed, is actually going to get some cardboard on top. And then this bed, I might do a little test, but yeah, that bed is going to get, because I need to build more soil on that bed. That bed's going to get cardboard with some clean straw on top. And then this bed, I'm thinking I might just put down some clean straw. I do need to figure out, now when I do those two beds, I'll be sure to make a video out of it, because it's basically the same steps as an like a Jeff Lawton instant garden, which is going to be helpful to a lot of people, I think. Especially the new homesteaders that are just breaking ground for their first, you know, garden and stuff. Instant garden is the fastest way to have some pretty good results, especially if you can do it in the fall. Let that stuff, you know, get set up, let the microbes come in and do their thing. And then by the time spring rolls around and it's time to plant, it should absolutely take off, compared, depending on what you're starting with, and compared to, you know, if you weren't to do that, or just to do like regular tilling and then plant that way. The Jeff Lawton Instant Garden, yeah, it looks like I'm not getting too many onions at all. I'm not getting much of a harvest at all. I'm going to be relying on my pigs and my fruit trees this year for any kind of weight on these harvests. Since none of this bed is really viable, what I'm going to do is actually just break out the scythe and get it cut down this way. You know, this scythe is probably one of the handiest tools I've had on this homestead. I can use it to break new ground, like clear new ground, I mean. I can use it for garden maintenance. I can use it to kill snakes. I can use it to harvest compost materials. I can use it to get new pathways and stuff, to establish new pathways. I can use it to harvest even, like if I was doing grains and stuff, I could use it to harvest. Super handy. And after you cut, you can also bring the material exactly where you want it. Alrighty, and now I'm basically just gonna go back through with this here broad fork, thanks to Link and old DeMario. They're the ones that gave me this broad fork. I did actually a consultation for them. By the way, if you need any permaculture consultations, then hit the links down below. Just shoot me an email. If you have a permaculture Q&A you would like answered, then leave them in the comments section down below with the hashtag permaculture Q&A at the beginning of it. And if you'd like to sign up for the email newsletter where I show you or give you a heads up on any events, on any festivals, that Texas Homestead Meetup group that we're doing and stuff like that, if you want to be notified about all that, then hit up the email list down below. Oh, that was just straight stump right there. So the downside of this area is that it was overgrown with a bunch of saplings. Well, a lot of those trunks are still in place and they would create just a huge crater if I try to dig them up. So I'm leaving them in place, letting them decompose, and then like one that I did earlier, I can just eventually pull it out. Yeah, this stuff is super compact. No wonder those onions didn't do well. And there's a thin layer of like decompacted crumb structure. And then under that, you can feel it whenever you throw the broad fork in there. After that, it just gets real thick. So I'm gonna finish broad forking this one. I did go ahead and finish broad forking this one. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, wow, that garden failed. And at first I was kind of thinking that as well, but it didn't completely. One thing I did get, huge harvest, were these greens for the next compost pile. That takes care of a lot of scything that I now don't have to do just because I went through and cleared a couple beds in the garden. And I should say that my sweet potato beds, these two beds right here, this one right here, and then the one in the back, there's even kale growing through the middle of this sweet potato bed. I cut it back a while back and it's still coming back up. So it just won't go away. So it's gonna keep on growing, and I have sweet potatoes in those beds. Those are doing awesome. The pests that came through seem to be gone now and there's really no more issue. And then my tomatoes are doing absolutely fantastic, especially after I got them upright and staked. They're doing a lot better now. In fact, I'm about to have one tomato that's going to be ready right there. So that'll be cool. I'll finally start, harvesting produce from this farm and stuff. So yeah, my peppers, they're doing all right. Mostly the tomatoes are taking off. I'll probably come back through and tie these guys just a little bit higher because they have grown quite a bit, because we had a ton of rain all at once. And then we had like the past couple days of just straight sun. So, they've really taken off with that sun, that extra sun. So I'll come back through and then tie those up a little bit higher. And then whenever I do plant this bed and the other bed out, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Also, I'm gonna do the Insta garden on top of that bed. This bed, I might just do straw. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'll let you guys know and all that. And I'll keep you guys obviously posted, as I've said 3 or 4 or 5 times in this video so far. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you guys.